Open for business. The UK's trade minister joins a growing list of high-profile visitors to Taiwan. Police break up another money laundering ring, this one using online games to launder their stolen money. Unaccommodating accommodations, Taiwan's elderly are finding it hard to rent places to live. And who's on first? Well, that's the CTBC Brothers. They're second in as many years. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Liao. The UK's Trade Minister Greg Hands has traveled to Taiwan to meet with officials for yearly trade talks. It's part of what the minister calls Britain's post-Brexit tilt towards the Indo-Pacific region. Stash Butler has the story.
Another week, another high-profile visitor. Britain's Minister for Trade Policy, Greg Hands, met with President Tsai Ing-wen on Wednesday. His visit is part of a UK government push to find new trade partners to make up for money lost during Britain's exit from the EU. But when it comes to wooing Taiwanese investors, the UK has competition. Hands is just the latest arrival in a long series of delegations from the US, Germany and Japan, all of them much bigger trade partners to Taiwan than the UK. Those visits have angered China, which sees Taiwan as part of its territory. On Monday, Beijing told the UK to keep its distance.
我们敦促英方切实尊重中国主权，恪守一个中国原则，停止与台湾开展任何形式的官方往来。
That day, 64 Chinese warplanes crossed into Taiwan's air defense zone, 31 of them directly across the country's unofficial dividing line in the Taiwan Strait.
There could be a number of reasons why this is happening. There's speculation about a British visit to Taiwan, but in all honesty, these are the largest violations we've seen since August as of today, with 31 aircraft. And in general, that means China is signaling for some reason that they are unhappy and they want to make it known by putting pressure on Taiwan.
But Hands' visit went ahead, despite Chinese pressure. On Wednesday, President Tsai thanked the UK for its support.
我也要借这个机会感谢英国政府长期支持台湾的国际参与，以及支持台海的和平稳定。同时，我要恭贺刚上任的英国苏纳克首相，期盼在新政府的支持之下，台英关系能够不断的提升，有更多的合作成果。
China has ramped up its military and diplomatic pressure in an attempt to isolate Taiwan. But Greg Hands' visit is the latest piece of evidence that that tactic has failed to have its desired effect. Andy Xue and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
Police have busted a fraud ring that laundered over $100 million in stolen money through online games. It's just the latest in a string of similar criminal groups that Taiwan's authorities have broken up in recent months. John Van Trieste reports.
More than $200,000 worth of stolen cash piled up on a police evidence table. This is the haul from a raid on a fraud ring's headquarters in the central city of Taichung. Police arrested 7 suspects, including the gang's alleged leader. Had the authorities not intervened, this cash would have been laundered. Investigators say the group has illegally processed over $100 million since 2019.
诈骗集团透过购买金币游戏点数方式将钱洗出来。
Authorities have been cracking down on an increasing number of gangs like this in recent months. Some of them cooperate. Police learned about this group's headquarters because of their past ties with another criminal ring, which was busted in August. It isn't just money that's at stake. Some groups use kidnapping and torture to extort their victims. A number of people targeted by the gangs have been forcibly held in hotel rooms or apartments for days, some of whom have died. Law officers have vowed to step up searching hotels for people they suspect are being held against their will.
持续针对旅宿业来进行清查，另外也会针对一般的社区大楼的出租场所来加强清查。
Police suspect criminal rings could also be gambling on the outcome of Taiwan's upcoming local elections as another way to launder money. As voting day nears, investigators say their crackdown on these fraud groups won't let up. Kama Xu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Amnesty International has criticized Taiwan's decision to block COVID-19 patients from voting in the country's upcoming local elections on November 26th. Under current regulations, people who test positive for COVID must self-isolate for 5 days and cannot go outside, even to cast their ballots. Violators could be fined up to $62,000. Amnesty's Taiwan branch says this may prevent up to 300,000 people from exercising their voting rights. It says the policy is based on what it calls unclear laws and regulations. Amnesty also says the rule violates an international covenant guaranteeing the right to vote.
The CECC and CEC, they clearly banned anyone who get COVID or under quarantine to vote for the local election and the referendum. So it certainly violates the International Convention of Civil and Political Rights and also the rights of people to participate in public affairs.
Taiwan's most prestigious performance venue has promised to improve services for disabled guests. That's after a wheelchair user recently complained online that staff at Taipei's National Theater and Concert Hall repeatedly refused to help him up the stairs after a performance. One staffer said it was because they couldn't take responsibility if an accident were to happen. Theater officials have apologized and vowed to form a task force to look into the situation. Taiwan is set to become a super-aged society by 2025. That means a fifth of the population will be aged 65 and over. But even before the country hits that mark, some elderly are finding it hard to rent suitable housing. Let's take a look at some of the challenges they face in finding a place to live. Mr. Chen is 65 years old and lives alone. To get to his apartment, he has to climb 4 flights of stairs. On the way up, he points out the poor state of his building, like chipped paint on the walls. Inside his small living space, things are not much better. The few furnishings he has are in poor condition. The bathroom has mold and mildew growing in it, and the ceiling leaks. A home is supposed to be a shelter, but for Mr. Chen, it feels more like a cell. It's not that he doesn't want to live better, but the options for older people like him are extremely limited.
房东电话一拿起来，听到老人的声音，喂，你们那边有房屋出租吗？哈，我要租，可能电话就马上挂掉。就是他们在寻屋的过程是非常的挫折啦。
Taiwan's government has introduced programs to make things easier for pensioners. There are subsidies, subleasing initiatives, and social housing, but they can be hard to access. Mr. Chen is diabetic. He had coronary bypass surgery a few years ago. He can't work, so he relies on welfare. That means less than $450 a month to live on. Mr. Chen tried to take advantage of government subsidy programs, which would give his landlord a tax break, but applying for a subsidy could get him evicted. That's because the only housing available for older renters like Mr. Chen are often unregistered homes on the black market. Landlords would rather kick their tenants out than risk their property being exposed. Mr. Chen says he would prefer to live in social housing. The apartments are built better and they are much cheaper than other rentals on the market, but there just aren't enough units available. Another option is a sublease program. Landlords provide houses to the government, who then rent out the property to people. But there's a downside.
包租代管的一个问题就是，目前包租代管的签约基本上还是都是1年1签，所以包租代管并没有办法解决老人长期居住的问题。
The problem is not just Mr. Chen's alone. Supporting older people takes a toll on all of society.
像我们看到很多寡居的一些生活的居住状况，他就会去住到那么小的一个环境，环境影响也会造成他身体的退化， 然后他也精神上也会退化。一旦进安养了之后，我们国家在一个人的身上就必须要花上几万块的成本去承担他的安养的费用。
While Taiwan struggles to find a way to house its aging population, Mr. Chen is still looking for a dry place to rest his head. Tickets for a Blackpink concert in Taiwan next year have reached astronomical prices. The wildly popular South Korean music group will perform in the southern city of Kaohsiung next March. But official tickets for the event sold out seconds after going on sale, and scalpers then swooped in. Prices on Taiwan's biggest second-hand marketplace are as high as $6,000 per ticket. Blackpink has a large international fan base. The all-girl group is currently on a world tour after releasing their first single in 2 years this August. Chipmaker TSMC is planning to build a second plant in the U.S. That's according to a report in the Wall Street Journal. The journal says the new plant in Arizona will be focused on TSMC's most advanced 3-nanometer process, with investment totaling around $12 billion. Concern is mounting over weakening global demand for semiconductors. Another report indicated that TSMC plans to delay or halt a new 7-nanometer facility in southern Taiwan. The company has yet to comment on either report. Taiwan's top baseball league has finally found its champions for the 2022 season. The CTBC Brothers won their second consecutive championship, making it their 9th title win in 30 years. Bing Wang reports.
恭喜中信兄弟是中华职棒33年的总冠军，完成了2连霸。
The field of dreams, where champions are made and etched into history. Fireworks and 20,000 fans erupted in celebration as the CTBC Brothers claimed victory at the Taiwan Series on Wednesday. The team beat the Rakuten Monkeys 3-2 in the final game. It's the brothers' 9th championship win since 1992. The series is hosted by the Chinese Professional Baseball League, the highest level of the sport in Taiwan. Brothers manager Lin Wei-zhu said the win was all the more gratifying for taking place in front of a full crowd at his hometown of Taichung.
还有最重要的，我们的热情的球迷朋友们，这一年来这么支持，这么努力的为我们加油呐喊，但这些选手虽然有一些低潮，但是终究我们做到了，总冠军我们拿到了，谢谢各位。
CTBC players Francisco Peña and Tyler Visa, who have played in several international leagues, also thanked the fans for their dedicated support.
I appreciate that all of you guys enjoy me playing, but the most important thing, I enjoy playing for you guys. You guys really gave me that strength to be able to squat down every day there, and I'm not gonna lie, it wasn't easy, but I really want you to know I appreciate you guys, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me that support.
Actually, after 9 years of playing professional baseball, this is my first championship, and no better place to get my first one than here. I'm extremely excited, and I'm happy for the country of Taiwan.
This is the brothers' second championship in a row. Following on from this victory, they'll be hoping to complete a trilogy in next year's season. Patrick Chen and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, Taiwan's effort to have completely bilingual education is hitting a major roadblock. Find out why after the break.
所以你觉得山给了你什么？
没有办法用几句简短的话语来带过，但它造就现在的我。
山就是给了一个我们远离世俗的环境，你可以忘记很多事情。
不要怕去探索新的东西吧。
很深层的去认识一块土地，去认识一个很深邃的自然。
在山的面前，你只会一直感觉到自己很渺小。
每一次都有不同的考验哦。
妈妈表现怎么样？
很好，10分坚强。
山是有魔力的地方，
那如果今天不让你爬下，你觉得你会死？
生命肯定会延续下去，但我想心灵有一部分会枯萎掉吧。
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus. For more great stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. New Twitter owner Elon Musk has unveiled plans to overhaul the social media site's verification process. The blue checkmark credential is now open to anyone willing to pay for it in certain countries. It's among several moves by the world's richest man that have activists across Asia worried about the platform's new direction. Ryan Kilpatrick has more.
Online legitimacy for sale. This is how many view the launch of the Twitter Blue subscription under new owner Elon Musk. Before now, blue checkmarks meant that the identity of that particular user had been verified by Twitter. But under Musk, the blue tick is now open to anyone willing to stump up $8 a month. Across Asia, activists, journalists, and researchers who have been targeted by their home governments and online harassers are sounding the alarm. They are concerned this could invite even more abuse and misinformation to a platform often known as the world's town hall.
I am worried that under Elon Musk and all these new rules, the freedom of speech on Twitter could be even could get even worse. In the sense that journalists and researchers like myself who already face state-sanctioned abuse, state-sanctioned disinformation campaigns, we would become even more vulnerable because the Chinese government would just be able, or the Russian government, the Iranian government would just be able to buy, a lot of verified accounts.
Xu is an Australia-based Chinese journalist and researcher. She is regularly inundated with abuse on Twitter. But Xu says the direction the company is taking under Musk is even more worrying. The billionaire has business interests in China. Recently, he echoed Beijing's stance on Taiwan.
Elon Musk has told everyone loud and clear that he sides with Beijing on all these issues. So there is a real concern, if he would hand over data, if he would fail to police Chinese troll army. Only time could tell. But for now, with an educated guess is that Twitter is less free and less safe and less fair as it is now for journalists and researchers like myself, and also, lots of Chinese dissidents and activists.
The problem of monetization has dogged Twitter for years. Digital rights activists say that introducing a subscription model isn't the problem. It's what users are expected to pay for.
Verification is not a product. It's just something saying, oh, this is the person that you think you're following. So that is a safe thing for you to do instead of that. And I don't think he understands the mechanism of the verification thing. And it will have an impact on the analysts who are working on these things.
The verification issue is just one facet of this debate. In his first week on the job, Musk also dramatically cut a significant chunk of Twitter's workforce. This included employees who were responsible for preventing online misinformation and hateful conduct.
But you can't say human rights lawyers or policy team that's focused on ethics and human rights are redundant. They're not, because they're essential for a healthy development of a social media platform that allows minorities to be able to speak up and people who, like us, are not harassed, which is like all the time.
For some Twitter users, Musk's actions are a source of annoyance. But for dissidents across the region, the stakes are far higher. Howard Zhang and Ryan Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. Republicans and Democrats are in a tight race for control over both congressional houses. Votes are still being counted in several key swing states such as Arizona and Nevada. The two U.S. parties are currently neck and neck in the Senate, while Republicans are expected to hold more seats in the House of Representatives. Election analysts say it could take days or even weeks to count all the votes. U.S. President Joe Biden says he plans to use his upcoming meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping to draw the two countries' quote, red lines on Taiwan. The two leaders have arranged talks at the G20 summit in Indonesia next week. At the meeting, Biden says he and Xi will set out the U.S. and China's critical national interests and discuss ways to resolve disagreements. One of the biggest disputes is likely to be over Taiwan, which Beijing considers part of its territory, even though the People's Republic of China has never controlled Taiwan. The U.S., meanwhile, says Taiwan's status is unresolved. President Biden says he is not willing to budge on the biggest issues.
I'm not willing to make any fundamental concessions. And so what I want to do with him when we talk is lay out what kind of each of our red lines are, understand what he believes to be in the critical national interests of China, what I know to be the critical interests of the United States, and determine whether or not they conflict with one another. And if they do, how to resolve it and how to work it out. And Taiwan doctrine has not changed at all from the very beginning.
Russia has announced it's withdrawing from the southern Ukrainian city of Kherson. The move marks a major strategic blow to Russia's invasion of the country, now in its 8th month. James Chater reports.
It's one of Russia's biggest setbacks since it invaded Ukraine in February. Here, the commander of Russian forces in Ukraine tells his boss their military's position in Kherson, the only major Ukrainian city Russia has captured during its invasion, was no longer tenable.
Приступайте к отводу войск и примите все меры, чтобы обеспечить безопасную переброску личного состава, вооружения и техники за реку Днепр.
Kherson is one of 4 areas which Russia unilaterally annexed in late September. The Russian military had intended to use Kherson to push further west into Ukrainian territory. Their departure from the industrial port city marks a strategic and symbolic blow to the country's war efforts. In Washington, US President Joe Biden said the announcement showed Moscow was now on the back foot.
It's evidence of the fact that they have some real problems, the Russian military. And it remains to be seen whether or not there will be a judgment made as to whether or not Ukraine is prepared to compromise with Russia.
But Ukrainian officials remained cautious. An advisor to the president's office wrote on social media, "Actions speak louder than words. We see no signs that Russia is leaving Kherson without a fight." Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky echoed these sentiments, saying any celebrations must wait.
Може, це звучить не так, як хтось зараз очікує, може, не так, як у новинах, але потрібно розуміти, ніхто ні звідки просто так не йде, якщо не відчуває сили. Ворог не робить нам подарунків, не робить жестів доброї волі. Ми все це виборюємо.
The US estimates that over 100,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers have been killed or injured since the war began. And with Ukraine vowing to reclaim every inch of territory taken by Russia, losses on both sides are likely to mount in what looks set to be a bleak winter. Asnaya Joe and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's government is looking to have fully bilingual education by the end of the decade. But there's a major stumbling block. Not enough teachers who speak English. Eric Gao reports.
How are you? How are you?
English in every Taiwan school. That's the goal of the government's bilingual 2030 policy. It's aimed at making sure students in Taiwan can speak both Mandarin and English to improve the country's international competitiveness. Schools will be expected to offer English instruction in a variety of subjects.
包括国语、数学，还有社会、自然跟艺能科、体育、健体这些课程里面，老师能够用英语去授课。
English teaching in Taiwan starts in primary school. The idea is to let students gradually get comfortable with the language.
其实我们环境的提供就是让学生先习惯，习惯就成自然，自然之后他才会开口跟你用这2种语言沟通啊。
But there's one big problem with this initiative, a lack of English teachers. There are not enough foreign or certified local instructors to meet demand, with a shortfall of about 1,000. To fill the gap, schools are asking current teachers to start adding English in their lessons.
第一节课就被告知说我必须用英文上课，我当然是非常的 surprise。
But just because a teacher can speak in English, it doesn't mean the language can be seamlessly incorporated into their classes.
我用的比例不算多，那我也没有要求他们一定要用英文回答。
Experts believe that there are other problems that could arise from this approach. They say that forcing teachers to use broken English in class could be counterproductive, and that this may hinder their students' ability to learn the material.
一定要把握一个原则，就是学科专业为主，双语是加分。如果台下的学生听不懂老师讲的英文，那这节课的教学效果绝对是零。
The experts say having English in every school is a lofty goal, but not one that should come at the expense of actual education. Patrick Chen and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of an Austrian trick cyclist pulling off his stunts. Or not. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.